Hey guys, welcome back for our first mini vid on Module 2. Module 2 deals with the exploration and colonization of the New World. We refer to this first mini video as the opening of Europe. Before we can get into exploration into North America and having people come over and find North American continent and then eventually settle here, we gotta get a little bit of a perspective on what's going on in Europe at the time. And so to do this, we're going to quickly try to identify the factors that led to what we call the opening of Europe, where you can go in, people are coming in and they're going out. And then their role on the beginning of the age of exploration. Now, when looking at this particular module and this time or concept, we're going to be looking for some events that actually happened that's part of 6th grade content. And so I'm not going to go very in-depth on these topics, but instead what we're going to do is we are going to just kind of highlight them and show the impact that each one had on the next that will eventually lead to exploration. And so to take a quick look to get started here, we're going to take a look at the fall of Rome. The fall of Rome occurred around 476 AD. Kind of started a little bit before that, didn't quite end until a little bit after that, but around 476 AD is what we are looking at. And not to go too in depth, the basic reason for this is that Rome basically became a little too large. If you take a look at the map over in the upper right hand corner, you can see all that area that is in parts of Europe, Asia, Northern Africa. All of that area is Rome at the height of its existence. And so it becomes a very large place to try and control. And so what happens near the end of the Roman civilization is you have a lot of what we call Germanic barbarian tribes that are going to come in and they're going to start to sweep through the Roman Empire. And these groups are anyone's from Angles and Saxons and Franks, and you don't need to know all of these names, but you need to know that they come in and they start to carve out different areas in which to settle down. And so some of those groups are going to be referred to as the Angles and the Saxons. They're going to populate the area known as the British Isles. Eventually this will turn into England. And then there's another group called the Franks that are going to end up in France. And so after they get in, what tends to happen is for the next 1,000 years or so, Europe is going to be closed. This is an effect of the fall of Rome. They become so worried about their basic needs because of these people that are attacking them that they start to isolate themselves and they start to focus on their protection. And so because of the fall of Rome, you have people that are like pulling back and isolating themselves and kind of looking out for just their best interest. These areas that are carved out, a long-term effect, are going to eventually become the nation states that we are familiar with today. So, for example, where the Saxons settled up here is going to become the country of England. Then you're going to get France and Spain over here, and then maybe Portugal down here. And these are going to become the countries that we know and reference as we get into the age of exploration. Now, we talked about the 1,000 years that Europe kind of isolates itself. This time is often referred to as the Middle Ages. The time period on that is from about 500 AD up until about 1400. So it's about 1,000 years, 900 years or so, where at this time there's a drop back in civilization. People are going to focus more on their safety and on their protection than they are on anything else. And so in exchange for some safety and protection, you have people that kind of step up and are going to provide that in exchange for loyalty and work. And so this system is called feudalism. And there's a picture of it or a graphic of it down below. And so what you have down here is you have a king who steps up and who becomes like the leader and provides money and an army. And what he does is he gives out land to the next level of the social class called the nobility, and then they give out land to knights, and then the knights going to give out land to vassals, and then in return for giving out land, in return they provide back to the king or the person above them military service or food. Loyalty is another thing that they give back. They make sure they pay their taxes. Folks, this area is, or time period, is referred to as the Middle Ages, where kings step up to kind of take control, and they create this feudal system where they're basically trading protection for loyalty and making sure their basic needs are met. Now, some of the pictures that you see over here to the right-hand side are some of the styles of the time. Like, this is what the clothing looked like during the Middle Ages. I usually call it my Cinderella time period. You have kings, queens, knights, princesses, etc. This is what their living environment looked like. This is their shelter, their clothing. This is a picture of a knight, and so usually this is where the protection comes from, are from these things. And so kind of a dial back in civilization. People are doing less. They're becoming less educated. The only people that remain educated are the people of the church and the Pope from the Catholic faith. And they are going to be the ones that remain educated, people within the church, and they're going to get a lot of power. They're going to influence what the king does based on their knowledge and the desire to do the right thing, making sure that they're making good decisions to make sure that God is happy. This ultimately leads to what we call the Crusades. The Crusades happened around 1100 AD to around 1204 AD. These Crusades are going to reopen up Europe. So instead of being isolated and Europeans staying in Europe and not exposing themselves to dangers of the outside world, if you look down at the map, now instead of staying over here in Europe, in England, in France, in Spain, you now have knights that are traveling outside of Europe over here to the Middle East to win back the Holy Land, the area of land where, according to the religion, Jesus was born. They want that land back. And at the time, it was controlled by the Muslims. And so this war takes place. But more important than the war and the fighting for the land is that the knights leaving Europe and start to bring products back. They bring back new knowledge, food, inventions that they really hadn't seen for a long, long time. And this word is super important. Cultural diffusion starts to happen. It's where cultures from different parts of the world start to blend themselves back together. This opening of Europe and all these new ideas spark our next time period, referred to as the Renaissance. The Renaissance is noted as lasting from around 1300, so about the time of the end of the Crusades, all the way up until about 1600. The Renaissance is known for the new technology, the new architecture, the new artwork. All of this stuff comes from trips to the Middle East and that knowledge being brought back. And so what happens is these products are going to start what we call, and this is the definition of Renaissance, a rebirth of knowledge within Europe. And people are going to start studying the classic Greek and Roman traditions. They dust off the books. Education is on the rise. People are starting to learn more. And with education, you get a curiosity. And so an education equals curiosity. And so people are trying to find out more, trying to get more products, trying to figure out where all these spices are coming from. And so you have new architecture, you have new artwork, you have fashion that's being traded, new spices are taking place. And this will lead to the age of exploration because people want to get them. People want them. And there is a chance to make money. And so this is going to lead us to this new age of exploration. But it doesn't just happen overnight. It takes some time. In order for people to get out and explore in places that they've never been before, they need a little bit of confidence. And the knowledge that they gain through the Renaissance time period is going to give them the confidence as both explorers and as countries to go out and seek to expand, grow, and become more curious. They're going to start looking at stars and studying science. And ultimately what this is going to do is it's going to prompt the beginning of the age of exploration. And in our next video, we're going to get into some of those faster sea routes, why they're looking to do what they're doing, etc. But these are the causes as to why the age of exploration happens. One of the final things that changes during this time period is called the Protestant Reformation. This happens around 1500 AD, and thanks to the Renaissance, people are becoming more and more educated, and what they do when they become educated is they start questioning why certain things are done. And so we have this guy, his name is Martin Luther, and he is going to start to question the Catholic Church. And what he does is he posts this thing called the 95 Thesis. You'll see it in the picture over here to the right. He posts the 95 things that he thinks that the Catholic Church is doing wrong. And he questions why they're being done. And because he does this, and he is protesting, a whole new religion develops out of this called Protestantism, or the Protestant faith. So anybody that is Christian, not Catholic, falls into that Protestant category. Now, Catholics and Protestants are ultimately going to disagree and fight about whose religion is best, etc., etc., and this is going to lead to new groups seeking out new places. Another reason why people are getting out into this age of exploration. See, the word Protestant Reformation, the word protest means to disagree or show disagreement. And the word reform means to remake or to make again. It doesn't mean create something new. It means to just make it over. So Catholic faith, Protestantism, both relying on Christianity, just a little bit different. Folks, all of this is going to lead to new knowledge and new motivations that will open up Europe, that will lead to the exploration and kind of reshape what the earth looks like and what people are going to do in terms of interaction with each other. Folks, this is the reasons why the age of exploration happens. In the next video, we're going to kind of get into how that exploration takes place. So if you can, make sure you got these notes ready to go for Friday. If you have any questions, please write them down. And make sure that we're taking a look and studying these and bring these to the discussion in class. I've taken up enough of your time. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you in class. Have a good one, guys.